can see 11.9 hours. Then this control here with the locks on it, I figured out what it does. It's in the lock position. None of your hydraulics do anything. And so you can move, when you want to move your hydraulics, move it into that position, the unlock position, and then you'll see that your controls will do things like, in this case, I'm going to lower the bucket. Turn this thing off. And that way, when you get in and out of the machine, if you accidentally bump it, assuming the engine's still running, then the hydraulics are locked out and you won't cause an accident. It won't cause any part of the machine to move. Figure that's what that's for. So the Groundhog, or the doodad as my wife likes to call it, got really dirty the other day working up on my property. So what I'm going to do now is clean it off. I'll start with the leaf blower and then move to the compressed air and finally a damp rag. Okay, and while I was blowing this off, I noticed a couple of things I wanted to share that might help somebody. The first question I had today that was new to me was, how do you adjust the tracks? And so I found a plate that was on the side here, just below the tracks, and I removed it, two 14mm bolts. And if you look in there, you can see a large bolt and a couple of lock nuts on it. And my guess is that, unlike most of the videos I've seen where you add grease to the idler fitting to push the idler out and tighten up the belt, this one looks like you adjust those lock nuts. The idler would be in the front here. Hopefully you can see it, the idler wheel. I'm guessing that's the front of the idler wheel, and then this is the rear. And so when you tighten that big bolt there, you're pushing that idler out, which would tighten up the track. I'll try to confirm that here in a little bit. And then the second thing I noticed when I was cleaning this was that there's another grease fitting down here that had been painted over, and I did not see it at first. So I'm going to try to get in on it here. And I knocked some of the gray-blue paint off of that, the dark colored paint. So you can see that actually is not a Zerk, but a grease fitting there at the end of that ram. That would be easy to miss because it was painted over. And just for comparison, this is the right side of the machine, and you can see here I have not removed that plate yet. So that's what it looks like with the plate and the two 14mm bolts in there. I'm sure behind that you'll find that another large screw or another large bolt that you can adjust. So the next thing I'm going to do is wipe this down with a damp rag. So I put some Dawn dishwashing liquid in a bowl with some warm water and a sponge, and I'm going to wipe it down. The reason I'm not hosing it down is I don't want to force water into any place that might cause rust. So I'm using the air to blow out the dust and then just kind of carefully giving it a sponge bath. Okay, now I was going to grease it, and I thought I would try to show you the grease points that I've found so far. Basically, on each cylinder there's a grease point at each end. Here, for example, in the blade, there's one up there on the back pivot and one up here. Where did it go? On the front. So there's two of those. Same here on the boom. There's one down there at the bottom. Then if you follow it up to the top, there's one at the top. And similarly up here on the arm, there's, gosh, I don't know if you can see that. There's one. And then at the other end of the arm, there's the other one. Or I suppose that's the boom. Then the arm, there's one at the top. And this is that one that was hidden by paint at the bottom. Also, there's another one that you can see half of it. It's on the boom pivot. There's one there, and I assume there's one back in there somewhere, which I will look for. Then there's a different type of fitting, a Zerk fitting, that I'm more familiar with, and those can be found in various places. And so far, here's what I found. There's one here on this part of the blade, and there's one on the other side of the blade. And then there's one up here on the boom, on the back of the boom. And there's the seat up there, come down. And then you've got two fittings there. There's one at the base of the back of the boom there. You can see it angled towards us. And I'll move to the others now. And here's another one where the boom pivots. And I'm moving now to the front, the bottom of the arm, just in front of the attachment point. Again, that's painted. Hopefully you can see it's a Zerk fitting there. So to use this grease gun, you just cram the pointy part up against the little teeny tiny ball. Now I cleaned all these by hand, so I'm not getting dirt in there. And once you get it up against it, you go ahead and push some grease in. And you watch, and then you'll see grease starts coming out, in this case right here. So that's how you know you're full. And that's all there is to that. And this is the grease gun that came with the machine. And there was some grease in a plastic bag. So I filled this up with grease, and now I'm using currently the tip for the little recessed grease fittings. There's another tip for the Zerk fittings that I'll use for those. Then the question is, how much slack should there be on the tracks? And, well, boy, there's hardly any at all. I don't know if you can tell what I'm doing here, and I'm not getting anything. So they're quite tight. And I'm going to assume that that is correct and from the factory. I did also want to point out that there is a size listed here for the track. I don't know if you can read it, so I'll say that it says 180 by 72 by 41. And I don't know who makes this, but there's a number here if this helps anybody. 2136888. So I don't know how you get new tracks yet, but if I need one, there it is. There's another thing I forgot to show on the controls the other day, which is the thumb. That's the part of the arm up there that moves down to grasp like a thumb. And that's controlled in this machine by this, underneath this foot pedal here. You kick that up with your foot and you close the thumb with that side and then open the thumb with the other side. And I'll give you a video example of the thumb now. I'll lift up the arm. Up so I can get the zerk fitting there. But if you watch the thumb, I'll press the left side of that foot pedal. You see it closes. Whoop. I didn't have enough power. And then I'll now press the right side. Woo. That moves fast. And then the other issue that I wanted to talk about is people talk about jerky controls. This one has hydraulic controls is what I'm told. And what I've found is that the controls can be jerky if you don't fully actuate them. So if you only go halfway, then it can get jerky. And if you go all the way, left or right or up or down or whatever, it gets smooth. I'll try to demonstrate jerky now for you by just going halfway. Here goes on the jerkiness. I got to switch hands. Hopefully you could see how jerky that was. Now, that's because I did not go all the way over with the controls. And the reason that you might not do that is it might go too fast for you. Now I'm going to leave everything the same, but go full bore on the control and move to the right. And so it moved pretty smoothly, but it was pretty fast. Let's go back the other way. Okay, so here's what you can do at first until you get better at the controls. What I've been doing is it'll catch you every now and then, but if you reduce it to idle, and then you can go full swing without moving so fast. Here we go. And what you'll find with that is it's a little easier to control that jerkiness. From what I can tell, that jerkiness is all about the operator being not confident enough to do full control movement.